hopefully it goes.
Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Emergence of Being podcast with me and Dr. K. And today we're talking all about energy drain, movement, and food. So truly, just you don't really have to fess up to it, but how many of you take better care of your car than you do of your own body? And like
Right.
that's what I put in the write up. Like we put the same diet in. We always are consistent. We're not like putting junk into the fuel or anything like that. We give it oil changes. We give it radiator flushes. When the little idiot lights come on, we take it in for service. Well, we at least we should. Maybe some people don't. But
Right.
like, what would it take to actually like take care of this vehicle of the body through the movements as well as what you're putting into it, because it is the vehicle that the being is using to do all of our magical work on this planet. And that's what today's episode is all about, as to getting into better communication, because your body doesn't come with those lights that go up on the dashboard like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Getting in touch with the body and like what really can help prevent those energy drains that we experience.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, we talk about food today, and movement is so key. We'll talk about that too. And there's many things we do to take care of our bodies. It's not just this. We're just kind of doing the energetic 4-part series. I guess this is our last one.
It is. And then I think we were going to have like an energy gaining series next. Like, okay, so now we taught you how to stop all the drains, and now we're going to teach you how to fill yourself up. So that's going to be kind of like part two of this, like a 2-part series, I guess. Like two, I don't know how many parts the next one will be, but we're going to have a couple episodes on bringing energy more into the body and the being. Versus this one, we're really focusing on stopping the trickles of the drains.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're not just this physical thing. We have this thing called energy. And does that mean like it's kind of like you wake up in the morning, and do you have energy in the morning or do you not? Well, the body needs energy and it needs to move. And one of the biggest things that I think I can speak on is when you're feeling in a funk, so to speak, or you're feeling drained, or you're feeling really depressed or anxious or tired, move your body. That's what's going to get you out. Because when we get in these spaces where we kind of just get really depressed, and I'm like, I'm not getting out of bed, and it's just, I feel so tired. Force yourself to move, because when those things pile up, it's kind of like gravity pulls all that yucky stuff down, and it sits kind of at the bottom in our butt area. I'll just put it that. And we're just talking about energy, and the way energy pulls towards gravity, you get congested down below, and you just kind of don't want to move. So the key to shake that off is to get up, even as tricky as it might feel, or hard as it might feel. I don't like to use word hard, but as much as that feels that way, like I really can't get out of bed, I think I'm just going to stay. You're going to have to force yourself to get out of the chair, get out of the bed, turn on some music, shake it off. 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, you can do that. You can do that just to shake that off, and that will get the energy moving again, and you'll feel better. Like there's days I just, I get tired and I don't want to go to the gym, and I force myself, and I always, 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 always feel better after I go in. Even if it's not the most optimal workout, I always feel better. So that's the key, really, is
Act
movement.
opposite. Well, movement, but like that initial push off, because when I've been sober 15 years now, but I remember when I was first getting sober and I was going through IOP, which is intensive outpatient program, like I just at your exact description, like you wake up in the morning and you just don't want to get up. And
Right.
once you get up and get out, like you're fine. But that initial momentum was like really hard to get. And one
Yeah.
of the greatest tools that I got from one of my counselors at the time was to act opposite. And just for that initial push off, and then once you're off, you're fine a lot of times. But that was a great tool that kind of brought me to the beginning of getting through that.
Gonna edit and make ourselves public. Yeah. So it this is where I think people get stuck. It's like, I'm too tired and I'm not eating. You got to take that little motion. Just tell yourself you have control of yourself. This has control over everything. You have control over your thoughts. And people are like, no, Dr. K, I don't have. I'm depressed. I don't have control. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And there's a little exercise I put people through to absolutely confirm that for you, that you do have control over your thoughts. And it's very simple. Would you close your eyes and think of somebody you're really upset with, or a situation that really upsets you? Take a second to do that. And then close your eyes and take a second and think of something really happy that happened that you really like. I don't care if it's like you're in a park and something beautiful happened,
Hmm.
right? You change that quickly. So you do have control over your thoughts. You can get yourself out of anything. When you're tired, it's a little trickier, but you can still do it. You can totally still do it. You're very, very, very powerful in that respect. So
Now,
movement is key.
well, movement's key, and I want to bring up one food thing because I know that my favorite little thing in the morning. I got my cup of coffee
Go for
here, and what can happen is when some of the energy drains that we experience might be some things that we have a little addictions to. Like I'm not saying I'm addicted to coffee, but like if I have found that there's been times where I've cut it completely out, and about a week afterwards, I actually feel more energized in the morning than when I was drinking coffee every day. So like some of the things like we might be putting things in our body that are causing like drains on our energy that if we were to eliminate that, maybe those times in the morning where you don't want to move, you'll have less and less of those if you're having moderation with things like coffee or I know a lot of people are doing kratom now. There's like some supplements out there that without moderation could actually have the opposite of the intended effect. That's we say that a lot in aromatherapy. Too much of an oil for its intended purpose will cause the opposite of its intended effect. Like lavender makes you sleepy. If you use too much, it makes you awake. I found that out personally when I put too much on my son's pajamas one time. Or peppermint, good for a headache, but too much causes a headache. So it's always in moderation and finding that balance point with things too.
Absolutely. Coffee is a great thing. I love coffee. It tanks me in the afternoon because it
Yeah.
really kind of squeezes the adrenals and you get that rush. But a lot of people start tanking in the afternoon, like they need that second cup, right? Who's out there that needs that second cup or has one cup, needs a second cup, maybe needs a third cup? I know people that have 5 cups. I'm like, that's a lot.
Well, I do pots. I've got my second pot. Oh, yeah. Well, I think maybe I have to look at the coffee thing again.
But
And I'm not that I was like that though just recently, and then that's when I had the awareness I had to cut it completely out, and then just reintroduce it, but at a much smaller amount.
yeah, yeah, because it does cause a kind of like a squeeze in the adrenal glands to pump more of that adrenaline out, so to speak. We'll call it that and use that
Mhm.
analogy and make you more wired. However, that's not the natural course of events in cortisol production. So when you over squeeze, you kind of it's what goes up really high must come down, and so that's why people think it's like, oh well, I need another cup to keep me going because I got to stay up here. However, the adrenals they can take 18 months to heal from people that have excessive stress, excessive, you have stress, then you put coffee on top of that, then you, I don't know, put Red Bull on top of that. And it's like, that's a lot. The physical body and the cells will still respond no matter what's going on with your mind. So you still have to take care of the physical body. And that's what we're talking about. Kind of like the
Yeah.
energy piece and the physical body. So you want to, yeah, you want to do those things in moderation and not over over the top
Now,
with most
besides
of it.
coffee, are there other things that people like? I mentioned a couple things, but are there things that you're aware of, like food wise, that are needing to be in moderation or good things to avoid that might cause like an energy drain on the system?
Coffee is one of any kind of those energy kind of drinks. A guarana is great too. I like guarana, but it will still stimulate. And our friends are on again on our comments.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't even looking at comments. But we got like habitual stalkers now. This is
Yeah,
wonderful.
see, they
You
just
know,
love
like
us
you're
so
about to
much.
hit it big when you get like the trolls. So,
But
but anyway, those that's mitigated. Thank you for letting me know.
yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, matcha. That's a big. The matcha teas. I that those are stimulating for energy, and yes, they're more natural, but they're still overabundance of those can kind of still tank things. In way of foods, we often think of fats as being good, and people are like, I eat a lot of avocados. That's not so much of an energy drain, but it can be on the liver if you have a really sluggish liver, where I did a whole course on this. So on the liver and detoxing the liver and the whole gallbladder system, that whole complex. If
Mhm.
you're sluggish and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I want to change my life, and they say to eat avocados, so I'm going to eat a lot of avocados and a lot of nuts and all these things. Well, if your liver's sluggish already, that's still a fat and it can't process that. So don't eat a whole avocado a day thinking it's going to keep the doctor away. It doesn't work that way. It's still a fat, so maybe every other day or half an ounce, not a whole. I know people that like they eat a whole avocado every single day. It's still a fat, and the body still has to process that as a fat, even though it's a natural good source of fat versus a burger or something. These are kind of things that are in overabundance. So with regards to caffeine, things like guarana can still tank you. There's all sorts of these more natural kind of stimulants, but they're still stimulants. So you have to watch for those. And if you're drinking, well, I'm not drinking coffee, I'm just drinking a ton of matcha tea every single day, it's still stimulating the system. So you're better off regulating the system, letting it do its natural course, and don't overdo it.
Something I'm just kind of got a hit to talk about that is not movement or food, but is really in line with our day to day energy drains is the space that you're in. And like, there's
Oh,
the idea of,
yeah.
and like, I'm not a feng shui person, but like, just like clearing up your space and like things that are cluttered, like, and I need to do this myself. Things that are cluttered, like, really go through and free up. Like, that's almost representation of like stagnant energy in your home, and your home is kind of a
Yes,
representation of you. One of my friends would always say, the outside matches the inside. And so as you start to do that type of work internally, like cleaning up the physical space is so important. Like, what if you
totally.
treated your home like a temple, just like you should be treating your body like a temple? And
Yes,
how much would that
yes.
add to your energy, and stop like energy drains and things of that nature?
How you do one thing is how you do everything. So start making changes. And I think COVID gave us that opportunity to really clean things out where we keep putting that under the carpet. But if you have a lot of clutter in your space, it, like Hank said, that is absolutely correct. It is a stagnant energy because what happens in the mind is you keep looking at it going, oh man, there's like all these piles of stuff. Oh, I really got to clean that up. Every time you think that, it's draining your energy from your brain. It really, as weird as that might sound, it does. It's like I got to clean this up. I gotta do this, and it's constant like leaks. So the more you can have clean space, the more or less congestion, should I say, you'll have in your space,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really important. Yeah, totally, totally, totally. Clean up your space. If there's something that's cluttered, please clean it up.
Yeah, and for me, like, just recently within the last year, like the issue that I had of like creating the clutter I've gotten a lot better with that. Now I just have like years and years of like collection to like go through, and that's just like finding time. But so it's like a two-part thing, like cleaning up the clutter, but also like if you have tendencies where you're accumulating things and like making the new clutter areas or whatever, like look at both of those equations, and if you can at least stop the bleeding, if you will, then you can do the other parts in
Yep,
tandem. We did have a
yep.
question
Okay.
from Hazel, and it's been so long since I've seen you, Hazel. I hope you all is well. But she's asking, can you tell me about fasting? Is there anything that really helps to cleanse the system? And we're going to touch on this again with our next energy series, where we're asking how to increase energy. But for detoxes, could, if you have like things going on, you could have an energy drain, and a detox could fix that. Is there a place
Absolutely.
where you could recommend people to start?
Yeah. So Hazel, I actually did a detox cleanse. Let's see, when did I do that? January, February, somewhere on there. Um, so we did a 3 week cleanse, and I'll probably run another one in the fall because
Mhm.
it ruined people's summers. It's 3 weeks of real cleanup. Fasting
Yeah.
is, this is one thing I will say to everybody. There is no one size fits all. The whole weight loss thing is a $1 billion business. There's no one thing that's going to fit every single person. Every single person's DNA is different. Everybody responds to things differently. Sometimes they give
Mhm.
somebody one supplement, works great for one person, but it doesn't do anything for the next person. And the stress behind that is really important. That's why I hit that on the nose. But fasting may work for one person and it may not work for the other. The other thing I will say, and we're talking about prolonged fasting, meaning 10 to 12 hours, 10 to 16 hours, your last meal at 4 p.m., then your next meal at 10 or 11. It is healthy to give the system a break. However, if then you go on and you eat poor food, or you're not continuously cleansing, or your liver is still stuck, then it may not work, or it may work very temporarily. So
Mhm.
it really is customizing a plan for each person. I have to know more of your history, seeing what's going on. You can always do a consultation for that. So, all in all, is it a good thing to do? Yes, you could try prolonged fasting where you eat your last meal at, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock, and then you don't eat again. Give yourself about 12 hours till the next one, 12 to 16 hours till the next one. What that does is it gives the body a break. But will you have more energy, so to speak? I don't know. We'd have to really kind of
Yeah.
see what's going on with you and what the rest of the whole plan looks like for you and your history and your
Yeah.
what's going on in your life. The liver detox really should give people more energy too, because everything, guys, everything goes through the liver. Everything you breathe, everything you eat, everything you put on your skin. And I'm doing a whole makeup detox class too, because a lot of the makeup we put on day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, all that gets stuck in the liver. And when the liver is moving slowly, everything else gets affected. Hormones, um, stomach stuff, rashes show up, fatigue shows up, everything. Viruses go haywire if the liver's not working, and that's all due to toxicity. Everything gets stuck. So when you fast, it gives the liver a break, because every time we're eating something, the stomach and the liver are constantly pump. It's like that pump that's constantly going. So it gives that pump a chance to kind of catch up. I hope that kind of answers your question a little
Yeah.
bit.
And I
Yeah.
put up the link for Dr. K's toxic makeup class on the screen. And then in the comments before we even started, I had commented the link to that. So if you go in the comments, you can see that.
Yeah, we'll
And
talk about
she,
all these things that are in your shampoo, not just makeup, shampoos, um, lotions, toothpaste,
deodorants, like
deodorants.
everything.
They are really causing problems for people. People don't
Well,
even know.
and let me just
So,
like share one thing too. And like if you're looking to do like fasting and detoxing and things like that, one thing I did with Dr. K is I did her little biofeedback like breakdown. And I also had her send out the lab people to take blood and like look at all my food additive sensitivities. And like one of the common things in toothpaste that I would never have thought, cardiac begins with a C, I probably
carrageenan.
forget. Yes, that. I had a huge um like that scored really high. It's not like I'm allergic to it, but it's definitely a huge sensitivity for my body. So like things like that, like if you are going to be doing a detox, if you don't know what your sensitivities are, it just gives you a lot better information that you can make informed choices with what you're putting into or on your body if you know what you're going in with. So I couldn't recommend that enough. Like at least the initial biofeedback thing that gives you all the information. And I would even go like I think the blood test was one of the best things I've ever done for
It's great
myself.
because, yeah, everybody's DNA is different. Hank showed up high on one thing. Somebody may not have a sensitivity to
Right.
carrageenan. Carrageenan is an additive they put into a lot of different things, sometimes even ice cream, and it can be carcinogenic. So, yeah, step with
But it's
caution on
all
that one.
natural, right? No.
It's no, it's yeah. They say it's so when they say parfum and all natural, it's not always all natural, and we're going to be talking about all that because it's not all natural.
Yeah. And folks too, like when it comes to natural things, like you want to keep in mind, when, like my aromatherapy teacher would say, poison ivy is natural. That doesn't mean it's good for you. So just because something's natural does not mean that it is good. You still want to do your due diligence, your homework. And even if it is good, it might not be good for you because everyone's different, to Dr. K's point. And so starting
Yep.
to map the body and what works for it and what doesn't is like, get a notebook and really start paying attention. I have a friend who just recently said like she really has made huge strides now with like alopecia, getting her hair back and things like that. And what it really came down to is after she ate anything, she would sit afterwards and ask like, "How does this make me feel?" And she would start noticing like what made her feel lighter, what made her feel heavier, what gave her issues, and started to only eat the things that were really in aligned with the body. So it's like kind of like a discovery, like figuring out what is working for you and whatnot.
Slowing it down and, yeah,
Yeah.
taking note, awareness.
And Hazel did have a couple things. She said, I drink a lot of tea with that helps with the caffeine and appetite suppressing. And she was just offering that she, like 12 to 7 p.m. she can eat. So she's doing like that intermittent fasting, which works for some people, doesn't work for others. Like
Yeah,
one thing when it comes to like fasting, if like you're freeing up fats or like your body's burning more and things, if there's not something else to help detox, because one theory about weight gain is that when you go on like a crash diet, your body is flooded from the fat burning off like toxicities and things, and then when you go back and eat, it just recaptures and puts it back in fat cells.
right.
That part of the problem with keeping weight off is actually detoxing and getting those things out of the system. So that's a
Exactly.
huge thing.
Yep.
And then, and I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm mindful now. And then Hazel says, water before you get out of bed really helps the energy in the afternoon. For your information, I have done that. I haven't done it before I got out of bed, but one of the things that I'll do is I'll make like this ginger drink in the morning, and I have a little bit extra lemon, and I usually do that with just put that extra lemon in water and drink that first, and then I have like a ginger tonic that I make every morning, and then I have my coffee and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
water is really important. And what do we do when we get up? First thing we do is coffee, right? Yeah, it's the first thing we
no,
brush
I
our.
do my ginger tonic, but yeah, but
Well,
it used
you
to
do,
be
but
first.
a
It used to be, yeah, I give you
majority of
that.
the population does not drink a glass of
Hmm.
water. You have been dehydrated from whatever time you go to bed. It's more than majority of time, anywhere from 6 to 10 hours. You've been completely dehydrated. The nerves aren't functioning. Nothing's really. It needs hydration. We are like 60, 65, 70% water. So we need that. So I always recommend the first thing to do to get out before you get out of bed is just having water, and putting some lemon in it can be helpful as well. That gets the gallbladder moving, the acidity, everything starts to move. So having 160 milliliters of water and not chugging it, drinking it slowly before you have any coffee, before you have any food, before you do really any kind of intake orally. So, that's what I do every morning. I have a glass of water with lemon. I drink that slowly. I warm it up. Don't drink it cold because our body has to then warm it up once it comes in. So I think that's really, really helpful.
Right. And I used to, back in my drinking days, to stay hydrated, I would set my alarm and I would wake up and chug like a glass of salt water. I just add a little bit of salt, but it helped with my like dehydration
Well, for
headache. So
you,
like,
yeah, with the alcohol, you kind of
yeah,
have
I
to
needed
chug it.
to. Yeah. Then I would just wake up, I would chug that, and then I would just pass out again. And then in the morning, like I never had a hangover. So like I'm not condoning this activity, but for my drinkers out there, like if you want to know how to
Yeah,
like avoid the hangovers, this is like a great way.
thanks for the tip. I'll use it next time.
But truly though, like if you are really dehydrated, like that's something to think about. And also sleep cycles is something that comes to mind, like thinking about like how I would set my alarm and wake up. It like you have everybody's sleep cycle is slightly different, but if you're waking up in the middle of a sleep cycle, that can cause you to have a lack of energy in the morning.
Yes,
And so
totally.
that's like a huge thing. I think the average one's around 90 minutes, and there's apps you can download and it will give you an idea. But like if you're going to bed at like 9 o'clock and your sleep cycle is 90 minutes, and maybe it takes you 15 minutes to fall asleep, you want to kind of look like, when do I want to wake up, and set your alarm somewhere within one of those sleep increments or sleep
Yeah,
cycles. And that by itself, because how many people have woken up and like you just like feel like, oh, I'm so energized, but it's 6 o'clock, I'm not supposed to wake up till 7, and you go back to sleep, and then when you wake up you're like, oh, like you were so
all
lethargic,
the
and we all
time.
say, I wish I had just gotten up and stayed up.
That
But
happens to me a
it's
lot.
something that you have to keep in mind too.
Yeah, there's apps for that. I think it's called, I want to say it's called Sleep Cycle. I just looked it up the other day. You put in the time that you need to wake up in the morning. So, say you need to wake up for work at 7, then it will tell you times that you need to go to bed, and it'll give you like the preferred choice. So, you get 8 hours, 7.5 or 8 hours of sleep, or even 10 hours of sleep, or 6 hours. So, it gives you those times so that you don't wake up in that sleep cycle. And that happens to me all the time because I have pets that just insist on waking me up at a certain time, and my body is not ready to get up. I do best going to bed at like close to 11 and waking up at 7. My body wakes up at 7. And here's the other thing, we all have optimal times. Everybody's DNA is different on this. Some people are, night owls, and they do best getting up, like going to bed maybe early and getting up at 4 in the morning. Some people do best, they wake up at 2 in the morning and they do work, and then they go back to bed. Everybody has optimal times, and some people have more than one optimal time. Mine is 7
Mm.
a.m. If I wake up earlier, sometimes I can pull off 6 if I'm in a sleep cycle. But if I get up at like 5:30, I'm maybe good for a little while, but I crash in the afternoon. So my optimal number one optimal time is 7 a.m. Then it's 6, and then. But if I try to do a 4 o'clock, 4 a.m., I have friends that get up at 4:30 in the morning and they work out and they're at the gym by 5 a.m. I can't. That's just not my optimal time. However, everybody has optimal times, and you probably already know what yours are. So, getting on the app and doing the sleep, I think it's called Sleep Cycle. I have to look it up on my phone and just Google it, and the apps will tell you what time you need to go to bed what time you need to get up so that you're in sync with that cycle and you wake up energized versus, oh, I'm not ready to get up, I'm going to go back to bed. And that's happened to me so many times. I'm just going to go back to bed just for a half hour,
Mhm.
just for an hour, and then I wake
I'll
up
do
and I'm
it.
sluggish the rest of the day. Yep.
Yeah, that's why even power naps, like you want to get like 30 minutes, like I forget what it is, but like a lot of, what's the inventor's name? Uh, Light bulb guy, Edison. He would take all these little cat naps throughout the day, and he would get his inspirations when he would be going in and out of that theta state, like that kind of in between, like where
Right.
you're really dreaming and everything. And a lot of his inspirations came from that. All that to say, like if you're waking up randomly, what you think is randomly at the same time every day, maybe that's a time where you're getting an inspiration and start paying attention and writing it. That could be a whole separate topic about using your sleep for your spiritual development, lucid dreaming and sleep cycles and
It is.
journaling and all that. That's a whole nother realm of
It
possibility we
is.
could talk about.
Yeah, because your brain is quiet at that point in time. There's so much
Yep.
noise in the world, so much we have to do. The data that comes in these days, is just massive. So we're not spending a whole lot of time in that really quiet space in our heads where we do get our intuitive thoughts. I get a lot of those when I'm first waking up in the morning, like when I'm still just like a little, I'm just laying there in bed. When you're looking for answers in life, that's usually where you're going to start getting them, where you're
That
just at that, yep, you're quiet.
yeah, for me, it's as soon as I start driving, I could like totally slip into like channeling mode. I'm like, this is probably not a good idea to
No,
do while
you're
I'm
right.
driving.
Happens to
Because
me
like,
too.
yeah, but it's almost like instant. And then it's like, well, I have to really be mindful about that. But like finding those things is like really good, because when part of energy drains could be you have all this information trying to come in and it's not, and you're not in the flow. So like, oh, battery saver is on. Apparently, I did not plug into my computer.
Uh
Uh,
oh. Well,
so
go
we might.
plug in.
Yes, I will plug in real quick, and
I'll
I will
talk. You
put it
plug in.
on Dr. K while we do this here.
Yeah. So another energy drain really is technology. Technology is, we're so bombarded with technology these days, and it is so draining. I don't know how many of you are doing a lot of Zoom for work and you're on work stuff all day, just doing Zooms, and you're tired at the end of the day, and you really haven't even done much. But technology and staring at a screen and the 4G, 5G now, there's so many studies for that on how that's causing health issues. And it's actually a ballot on the board. It's 637. You can look up Bill 637. They are trying to fight this because it's caused diabetes, it's caused all these other things. So please get away from your computer at least every 45 minutes. There's other tools and tips that I use to kind of help diffuse some of that. There's things you can buy to help diffuse some of that. But being in front of the computer, even though you're not active, number one, you're sitting, so energy's getting stuck. Until even has a little, they understand this, so they have their employees, they ring a bell, I believe, and it's like they have their employees actually get up every 45 minutes and do a little movement. So if you're at the computer all day long, you will find yourself stagnant at the end of the day. So yes, it's helped our world a lot to be in Zooms, but it is another energy drain.
Yeah. And if you're going to be at work a lot, like one thing that we're looking to for our house is one of those standing desks. So you could actually stand, you could be moving around, you're not sitting the whole time. So if you are glued to a screen, whether by choice or by circumstance,
Yeah,
like ask the question, like, what could I do to minimize the impact of being here all
yeah.
day? And there's things like that. Or I think I've seen people even with like a treadmill and they're like walking while they're working and stuff like that. And we have Valerie just tuning
Hi,
in
Valerie.
saying, yes, that's why I got off Facebook so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
yeah, and then
I'm
I got a new
finding.
phone that tells me my screen time. It's like you were
Yeah,
on this many
I
hours,
saw.
and this
Yeah,
percentage is Facebook, and this percentage is TikTok. I'm like, I don't want to know these things, but yeah, it's really good. Like if you don't see that, like you don't realize how big of a problem it is of how much we're we're consuming these electronics.
do a data detox. Really, just shut your phones off, computers off. I don't know. Find a time and point where you're like, okay, for the next 2 days or day, I am not answering any emails. Set yourself a little, autoresponder. Shut your phone off. I have found since COVID, and I'm just going to be honest here, that I am more addicted to my phone than I've been before. This I was one of those people that's like, no, the phone's getting put away when all of my friends are constantly on the phone. And I'm finding the more, and it's just business. I think I just have to post more and do more. And then before
Yeah.
I'm trying to post and I get down the rabbit hole of looking at some post somebody posted, and then I'm on for like 10 minutes. And I find that I'm drained after. Like I get like, I feel congested in here. My eyes just feel tired. So it's a total energy drain. It is really, really draining to continue to be on your phone and just staring at it all the time. And oh, let's look here and let's read this and oh, this. It's like, yeah, it's getting very addicting. And I shut my phone up at night. I completely shut it down. So that's another thing I kind of recommend. People sleep with their phones next to them. One of the worst things you can do is have your phone next to you while the 5G is running. It's very disruptive to sleep, by the way.
What about if we put on airplane mode?
I guess you could try that. But you're like, but I use the alarm on my phone. Well, then at least put it on airplane mode,
Yeah.
because it is very draining. That electricity is running, and they have done studies on this. Like the, the fact of you have a lot of electrical outlets in your room or your TV in your room. You're like, well, I need the TV to fall asleep. Actually, that's draining you. It is not allowing for REM sleep. It's
Right.
fascinating. It's really
That is like,
fascinating.
and I have some people I know who they sleep with the TV on
Oh,
all the time. I
yeah.
used to be one of those people way back in the drinking days because I would be drinking and then I would fall asleep with something on and, wake up and take a shot into the bathroom with me to my shower. Like I was bad. But that doesn't allow for any resting at all. And if you
No.
are dreaming about something, what are you dreaming of? Because all that is stimulus into your other than conscious, and it's now not only are you not getting restful sleep, but you're also putting all this other suggestion into your other than
Correct.
conscious.
Your conscious subconscious is hearing everything at all times. So people
Mm.
that are sleeping with the TV on, even though you take a little nap and you fall asleep and you snooze and it's soothing, or I have friends that need the fan on, they need something on. Look at why you need that. Ask yourself why you need that, because the best thing is really complete silence, complete darkness.
Well,
Unplug all your electronics, shut off your phone. That's what's allowing for restful sleep. We think we're resting and we think we're sleeping and we need these things. It's actually detrimental. It's not
yeah.
helpful.
Now, if you do absolutely have to have something, one thing that I would recommend, you can get like these. Well, I don't know what you think about Bluetooth, if that's better or whatnot, because you have to have something with headphones. But if you there's tracks out there with these binaural beats where it's one frequency in one ear, a different frequency to the other. So they'll put like a nice wavy. You could do it to waves, or there's different tracks with music and things like that. But it helps your brain slip into certain patterns. So you could actually have a sleep track that would guide you through the delta into the theta, like all those types of things. And then at least if you have noise, it's going to be a contribution rather than just this randomness. So like if you have to
Yeah,
have something, consider something like that. But the trick is you got to have earphones. So that's why sleeping, you might be pulling them out. They have different headbands that can go on that are Bluetooth. So it's like completely on your head without it being able to fall off. But I don't know, is Bluetooth one of the something else
that's
to
the
avoid?
tricky piece. It's like there's so many wonderful things out there, and technology has gotten so advanced that yes, we get these binaural beats, and yes, those sounds help the brain fall asleep. You're getting the Bluetooth, and that's kind of I
Yeah.
guess the poopy part of it. But I like the old. My thought was the old fashioned. I used to do some hypnosis things, and I before test taking, and I had a friend that was a hypnotherapist. She's like, "You listen to this tape." And it's the old fashioned, headphones with the tape recorder, and I'd put the tape in and just that was probably more healthier than the Bluetooth, but we have what we
Probably.
have.
Well, then, and if you're doing something like that for testing, like there's something called anchors. If you think like B.F. Skinner and the dog, no, Pavlov, it was Pavlov and the
Pavlov,
dog
yeah.
and the tuning forks. Like you condition with certain anchors, and so like if you're studying, you're always listening to the same thing. Or if you use, they actually have these pens that you can put drops of aromatherapy in, and we were selling them for a bit with testing because like if you put rosemary and lemon is for concentration, rosemary helps memory recall. So if you study while diffusing those, and then you're taking the test and you're diffusing it, it helps bring up all the stuff that you studied. So like that's
Hmm,
why they had these little pens that had a little thing at the end where you could put oils in, and then you put the same oils that you studied, and while you're taking
nice.
your test, you're stimulating that part of the brain and causing an anchor to remember all the things and do much better on the test.
That's a great idea. How about tuning forks, though? If somebody's just laying there and they can just hit a tuning fork? Would that be
You could
helpful?
use tuning forks, like there's tuning forks for binaural beats where you can put yourself into a particular state. There's also ones for different parts of the brain. That I don't know my brain parts, so I don't know if those are like good or we could have research that and like talk about it or whatnot, or just calming. You know, like if you had an ohm fork, a weighted ohm fork, because you might not be able to use that in a testing environment of one that's going to cause distraction, you could activate the fork, put it on your heart, allow yourself to calm. So like if you're a bad test taker because of anxiety and things like that, there's certainly tuning forks that could help and do that too.
But
Plus give you energy too.
falling asleep, like if somebody
For
just laying in bed.
for falling asleep, you know, you could use the binaural beat forks. The other thing you could do is a weighted fork with the acupressure points that would be good for sleep. So you would just take a weighted fork and then you would go on the pressure points that are good for a certain thing and right before bed. And that
Yeah,
would help
there you
immensely
go.
too.
So you might not need that whole Bluetooth thing anyway.
You don't need it. Well, and plus you don't want to be dependent on any one thing
Yeah.
necessarily either. So like there's habits, there's routines, and then there's like conscious, I forget the name of it. Like we had it on that one series that we did. Because like even a routine, like getting into a routine is good, but if it becomes second nature and you're not doing it in consciousness, then a routine could become kind of like just a better habit. So like the trick is like maybe vary things, but always, no matter what you're doing, be conscious of what you're doing. Because if your body all of a sudden says, "Hey, we need a change. This ain't working anymore," but you're in your routine, you're just going, you just miss the check engine light from your body and you push it too far. So it's always about whatever you're doing, being in consciousness and choosing from that
Of
space,
course.
being in
Yeah.
communion with the body.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing we talk about with food, um, eating a lot of meat, the heavy meals. Like I've been to Chicago, and you spend that $200 on that amazing. Well, at least I do because I love food, so I treat myself to
Wait,
those things.
$200 for what are you spending on?
Oh, food. No food, like for a
Oh,
dinner in Chicago. Like if you go to one of
oh yeah.
those really nice high end restaurants on vacation, for two people, it can definitely rack up to that.
No, we have
Having a
places here that are even more than that. You don't have to
Oh
go to
yeah,
Chicago to spend that much. Go to
we
the
don't.
cabin
There's
right here.
places
I took the in-laws there once and like the bill was like almost $500. I'm like,
where
good Lord. It was a
the
lot very
Cabin
expensive.
Club.
There's two restaurants. There's the cabin on the east side and the cabin club. I forget, one's west, one's east, but there's one right here in Westlake. I forget which one, but
That's the Cabin Club, probably.
the in-law wanted like the best steak ever, so we went there. But it was like, I mean, there was quite a few people though, but you got go in making you know you're going to spend a good penny or two. But he said
Totally.
that I quote unquote, oh, you have sponsored the best meal I've ever had in your country, you know. So like, I guess it worked out, but
Oh,
yeah,
it's worth it, I guess. For me, it always is. But those types of meals, speaking of that, how did you feel the next, I don't know how you felt the next day, but I notice a huge difference now when I eat that kind of meal where there's au gratin potatoes and a steak and your glass of wine and then you have a dessert. I am so sluggish the next day. You know why? Because your liver and your body, that takes a lot of energy to digest. So beware of the food that you're eating, processed
right.
food, heavier meals, your whole like barbecues you go to with all the chicken and all the stuff. And how do you feel the next day? When you eat a lot of
Right.
sugar, how do you feel the next day?
Especially
You
if
don't
you eat
feel
everything at the
energized.
restaurant, they give us like three portions worth of food. Like if you're really eating, like that's a big difference between like restaurants here and if you go to Europe. Like here, you go somewhere, like there's no way you're going to eat everything, or you might, but then you're going to be feeling pretty bloated. You go to Europe, the meal is like a portion. And it's completely different. And how often do you? So one, you might be overeating. Two, are you eating later than you normally would?
Mhm.
And then you're sitting around probably instead of going for a walk afterwards because you're visiting with people. There's a lot of factors besides just what you ate that are going into that when you go out for a big meal like that with people.
Absolutely. And if you do, my recommendation, especially since it's summer, take a walk when you get home.
Yes.
Work that off as
Now
quickly
you
as
got to
possible.
take a walk before you go out for ice cream next.
That too. That too. Yeah. Or walk to the ice cream place if you can and walk home. Um, at least burning that off and avoid eating late. So when because was talking about the intermittent fasting, this is why it provides a little more energy because it gives your body that time to digest and clean all that up. Because if you eat at like 7, 8, you go to this beautiful restaurant at what dinner is at 6:30, 7 o'clock. By the time you're done, it's 9, and you get out
Yeah.
of there, and then you come home and what do? You sit down, you probably maybe watch TV or you sit on the porch these days, and then you go to bed. You really haven't, your body's still working on that whole night, and it's trying to digest that steak and the appetizer and the dessert and the wine, and that's a lot for the liver, and the liver gets sluggish and it slows down, and you will be sluggish the next day, and it takes you about 2 days to really pump all that out. Versus maybe eat earlier, you take a walk if you have one of those types of dinners, or avoid overindulging in those types of dinners. You will pay the price the next day. You will be an energy drain because of the food that you ate. Or a bunch of sugar, same thing. Like you go to these barbecues now and you eat a lot of barbecue chicken, and then you have a bunch of chips and you have a bunch of desserts and a bunch of pies. You will feel sluggish the next day. You're moving slow. And that over and over and over for people that eat Burger King and all these things all day long, fast food, no wonder you don't have energy. And then you're pumping coffee because you don't have energy, and the coffee is stimulating your adrenals even more and tanking you in the afternoon. So you have another cup of coffee. And then it becomes a very, very vicious cycle that needs major detox, and you will feel better. So,
Okay, there's two more comments that are kind
okay.
of two different topics. So we're going to be talking about Valerie's comment and Mark's comment. I'm going to bring up Mark's first, and then we're going to circle back and finish with the limbic system, which I'm going to, by then I will have found a video for when we had Dr. Ravi on, who's called the lymph doctor.
I
But Mark was saying, are there any foods that are helpful for sleep? Since we talked about sleep being a component with feeling this energy drain going, is there any food, or like we were talking about not eating before bed, is there something specific you could eat though that might help sleeping besides
nothing
Thanksgiving
that's
turkey?
there's nothing that's coming to mind off the top of my head that makes you sleep. Foods that make you sleep. I really, I like melatonin, um, because it helps so many things in so many ways. It's, for breast cancer patients, it's
Yeah.
amazing. For sleep, it's amazing. It's immunomodulatory. It's not just for sleep. I can't. There might be. They're just not coming to the
Well, what
top
about
at
the
the top
old
of
thing
my
like
head.
warm milk? Is that like I remember seeing it in TV, and I've never liked milk personally, but is warm milk? Is there something with any truth to that, or maybe a chamomile tea? Like it's not food, but it's
I
like
would say chamomile teas, but food, substance foods, I wouldn't do the whole milk thing because milk is homogenized and the whole dairy thing is very inflammatory. So I know there's the whole theory of warm milk for kids, but I'd say chamomile tea. That's not really considered a food, but chamomile tea and a good organic chamomile tea would be great to fall asleep. A lot of people do that. But food wise, like a salad or something, I don't know of anything off the top of my head that, aside from turkey, that
yeah,
will
yeah.
increase tryptophan and make you more fatigued. There's nothing that's coming off the top of my head. Sorry,
Right.
Mark.
And the other question, or more of a comment, it's all the limbic system and its stimuli, yes. And it made me think about how like the limbic system is something that's not widely talked about, but like how like dry brushing and like different things can help the lymphic flow. And we had a really good conversation with Dr. Ravi, so I wanted to post a link to that. It's on our YouTube channel, Emergence of Being. I don't think it's on the Sonic Shaman one, in case you're watching there, but the name of it is called Clearing the Body and the Being. And we talked about how the energy centers, like the chakras go to the meridians, go to the lymph nodes, and like and how all that really goes together. And if your lymph system is off and you're not in the flow, that could definitely give you the sense of being energy drained. So I'll post a video to that because that's like a whole separate
Yeah.
conversation that we've already had, but
Yeah.
it would be a good one for everybody to look at.
Everything's connected, guys. Everything. It's not just one thing. The limbic system actually has to do a lot with our emotional statuses in our nervous system. Lymph is very interesting and it's so intricate, and it rides right alongside our circulatory system. And so there's this transmission that happens almost kind of energetically. It's really fascinating. It the lymph is right along like an artery or vein, so it rides right alongside. So things kind of transpose themselves through and into back and forth from the vessel into the lymph area and lymph nodes that grab the toxins, bacteria, viruses. They grab them, and they're the ones that kind of flush them out. However, when the lymph nodes get too congested, so if they grab too many things, it's almost like they swell up like a balloon because
Hmm.
they have too much. And if the lymph system isn't working well, it can't get those viruses and toxins out That's why like your lymph nodes swell, when you get a sore throat, because that's the first place that it grabs the virus and starts producing antibodies. So it's trying to grab that before it gets all through your system. But when it gets to be too much, it swells up. And when we have all these lymph nodes that are so swollen, especially with like cancer, like under the armpits, they are looking for those lymph nodes. Those lymph nodes are now congested, so they're not moving things in and out. So that means the toxins are stuck. And yeah, we just don't have a whole lot of lymph people in the area, which is a real bummer.
Yeah,
Um,
I
for
know
lymph
there's some
massage,
massage therapists that do it, but like it's a specialty and
it is a
it's really
specialty.
regulated, so it's like hard. Like the one thing that I have personally, the 32 hertz osteophonic fork, if you activate it and you use the weighted part just off the skin and just like kind of run where the lymphs are, like that subtle vibration helps to stimulate drainage. Allegedly, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not claiming that anything I'm saying is not for just entertainment purposes only. But I've had a lot of people have success using an osteophonic fork and help with lymph
There's
drainage and
lots, and
flow.
there's homeopathic remedies. I have lymph drainage remedies that help. It's kind of like Drano. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Like Drano, I have homeopathic remedies that are lymph drainage remedies that help kind of push. Like it's like a Drano to help push these things through. And then if you get a lymph massage where they kind of particularly massage those lymph nodes and help. If you do that, I think with a lymph drainage remedy and any other remedies like Hank's, it just helps everything move through. Yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah,
That would
and,
be my
and
plan of action.
And just a final circle back, because Mark is asking about like breakfast or in the morning. We talked already about how good it is to have like warm water and lemon first thing in the morning, or like I do a ginger tonic every day where I take like 10 grams of ginger, like I have it cut up in little cubes. I
Yeah,
boil that with spring water, which has a high pH, because I really intentionally put all that together. And then while that's going in a cup, I get a little bit of turmeric, a little bit of cayenne pepper, 30 grams of honey, or however you can do it more or less to taste, and a tablespoon of lemon, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. I use that extra lemon to make my lemon drink in the morning, like the first thing that I do. And then you take the hot ginger water, pour that in, mix it up, and that's like my personal morning tonic. That, well, I shouldn't say mine. Like somebody else discovered it, but then I make it for everyone every morning. But it's like a great way to do like get the and having that about an hour before we eat like
yeah,
just helps everything
totally,
get going. And then when you eat, like your system's already rapport and
exactly.
everything. But the ginger, the cayenne pepper, that is all good for detoxing. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going into that drink. And the turmeric we added because of my gallbladder issues. That
Oh
was good for the
yeah,
gallbladder. So like you can add a few things and customize it based on your own body's needs. But that's a
yeah,
great way to start the morning.
totally. I would totally recommend doing something like that before any breakfast bars. And breakfast bars are so full of sugar. They're so full of processed stuff. I recommend getting and eating in the morning. A lot of people don't eat. They don't eat till the afternoon. And again, everybody's body is different. So who am I to really say? But a generalized recommendation is I say have a protein of some sort in the morning, whether it's a protein shake, whether it's a couple of eggs. I'm not the breakfast police. I guess you can have a little chicken with a digestive enzyme. But protein is what gets the metabolism going. So preparing your stomach for the food first, like Hank's recipe, or just warm water with some lemon and a little turmeric or ginger in it. Ginger's great for the gut. Gets the body moving. Like, okay, we're moving the engine, we're lubricating it, and then you eat. But diving into like rushing out the door for work and grabbing I don't know, a Kind bar or something. Those are nice and all, but the body's not ready for that. And it is full of sugar and processed stuff. So really have a protein first if you can, of some sort. If you're in a hurry, protein shake. You can put some veggies, fruits in there, fresh fruits, and do that. That gets the metabolism going in the morning. And when people are having a hard time losing weight or not moving their bowels, I say got to get everything moving in the morning, first thing in the morning.
And we mentioned this at the beginning. Dr. K does have a class coming up. There's already a link in the comments. If you open up the comments to wherever you're watching the video, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere else, Twitter or whatnot, you will find this link. Or if you don't see it, then pause the video. You can write this down. It's a little link where it's taking you to a series that she's teaching on makeup. Do you want to talk a little bit more about exactly what's going to
Sure.
be involved in the class?
Yeah, I need brands. I'm just gonna say brand. Like we use a lot of L'Oreal. I used to go to Clinique when I was like, I don't know, in high school. My friend and I were like, oh, this is prescription strength. It's gonna be good. And they spend a half hour and they make your face look great. And this is what you need to be using. Well, and the anti-aging creams, it says $758 business and they snag you every time. So I have done a good amount of research on what the really good brands are, how to find the really good brands quickly. I will have a list of their of those names, links you can go to, what the products are on there that are good, what you can look for. I have a whole cheat sheet on there for ingredients to look for that are extremely toxic. There's an ingredient that's in almost everything. Shampoos, we're not just going to talk makeup, we're going to talk shampoos, we're going to talk about lotions, all those things that smell, make us smell good, anti-aging creams. All those things are not so anti-aging, not so great. And when it says natural or organic, it might not be. So there's different gradients of things. I've done the research. There's a whole cheat sheet, a whole Word document. You can just click on the brands that I have looked up that are really good, go right on there and get the stuff that you need. And there'll be some special bonuses on it too.
So you can check out that link and sign up for that. And then myself, I don't have the links available just to add to it, but if you go to my website, hanksuttle.com, I have a congruent manifestation class coming up on Wednesday at Goddess Elite. And then on Saturday, I have my crystal skull class where I'm teaching how to use crystal skulls and combining it with sacred geometry to make all kinds of cool, fun stuff happen in your life. So the two can go really well together. Use the skulls and the congruent manifestation together to really make your soul path and life path line up so life becomes magic is really the goal between the classes and the tools.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. What did I just do? I just made my whole dashboard go away for a second. Oh my gosh. But we had Valerie just saying that, thank you for this. I'm going to start doing warm water in the morning. Awesome. We hope you all got a lot out of this. And we're going to be doing next Monday. We'll start with our how to add more energy, going through the different things, I think, unless we have something else that we want to talk about. But let us know in the comments, like what's most relevant in your world? What would you like to hear more on? And we would love to create content around that for you.
Absolutely. And make sure it's filtered, Valerie. Good filtered, clean water.
Yeah, well, I like spring water personally that is from a good source, because if you test the pH of water, so much of like the purified water is not a pH that I would prefer. And pH helps. We could do a whole stream on that too, But your body's pH, like there's certain things that just can't. It's like the environment that allows or doesn't allow like different things to take root, like viruses and cancers and things like that. So if your body's pH is of if it's more alkaline than acidic, it in general helps things out. So like the water that you use is a huge contributing factor with that.
It is. And so are emotions. If you're really angry and bitter all the time, you can drink all the nice alkaline water you want. Your pH will go back to acidic, because they've done studies on this. They've tested perspiration on people that are consistently stressed and angry and bitter, and pH was really high, which means you are open to cancers. You're just inviting them right in. I just got an article actually from my I do continuing education with functional medicine, and they actually just put out an article on one of the most toxic emotions is bitterness. And there's a whole article on it.
Maybe that is the next one. We'll do a whole thing on. Well, we'll talk after we're done.
Yeah.
We're already way over where we thought we would stop.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's all good. But thank you all for watching. We'll see you next Monday with a topic to be determined. But whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to be great. And we will catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.